Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Learning from the Pros. Joining me today is the maestro of LinkedIn ads himself, Jan Becker. He is the head of growth at HockeyStack, and he's also an instructor at AdConversion that's actually working on all of our LinkedIn ads courses, 101, 102, and 103. Jan, super pumped to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, Silvio. Thank you so much for having me here.
So Jan, we're talking about LinkedIn ads today, and you're going to be sharing your top 10 tips on driving more ROI from LinkedIn. Side note for everyone listening, Jan, we were like laughing before we started recording, like he could do a course on each one of these 10 tips. So we're going to try to keep it concise and practical, and we'll riff on it. And why don't you kick us off with tip number one?
All right. The first thing is definitely none of them is in that order. I basically put all of them randomly. So it doesn't mean that the first one is the most important one or the last one is the least important one. All of them, I believe, is equally important. And I think the first one that I can start with is the auto bidding versus manual bidding. By default, when you create campaigns on LinkedIn, they have auto bidding. And I think auto bidding is a great way to start the campaign. But after a certain period of time, in my case, I wait for like a week. I recommend changing it to manual bidding.
Got it.
Because that week basically gives enough time to LinkedIn algorithm to learn and give you the average bid that it is getting. And once you have that average bid amount, average CPC, you can basically use manual bidding for like maybe 20% less of it, 25% less of it. And in almost every instance, it will work.
I see. So just to recap that, what you're saying is you start auto bidding to start the campaign to get learnings around what your average cost per click looks like. You let it run for a week. Now you understand what your average cost per click is from that week. And then you go manual. And then how do you decide on the manual cap? Do you meet the average or do you go a little bit lower?
I go 20-25% lower.
Okay, awesome. So now you're like trying to throttle down and see where it's the point of diminishing return, where it's like cost and scale.
And a caveat here, after you make the manual bid switch, I would recommend checking the daily spend in the next 5 days, because if you are not spending your daily budget, it means that your CPC is too low and you need to increase the CPC.
Yep, you took it too far, essentially, right?
Yeah.
It's pay to play, people. It's an auction. You gotta, at the end of the day, LinkedIn's got to get paid, right? I'm curious on that note around auto bidding versus manual bidding. Do you find that to be true for you regardless of campaign objective, or is there certain exceptions to that rule?
For the traffic and conversion campaigns, yes, I don't think it really matters. For the reach campaigns, the manual bidding is not available. For video view campaigns, it is not available. For Spotlight campaigns, though, I don't have that data. Like in Spotlight traffic campaigns, I don't have that data. But apart from the Spotlight, all of the static video document ads that have the traffic or conversion objective, this is basically what I have been seeing across all of the accounts.
Awesome. Tip number 2.
So that's going to be an easy one. Never ever turn on the audience network. No matter what your LinkedIn reps tell you, it is a no-no.
Can we unpack that a little bit for people? So why do you, I mean, for the listeners, why do you feel that way?
So basically, LinkedIn owns a lot of partner websites, or they are partnered with a lot of websites, and it is basically a way to distribute your content outside of LinkedIn. But the problem with that is, as soon as you turn that on average, and I have tested it with a lot of campaigns, with a lot of accounts, 90% of your all budget goes to audience network, and only 10% goes on LinkedIn. And actually, when you think of your intent for using LinkedIn ads, because you know that your audience spends time on LinkedIn and there's an intent on LinkedIn, you want to promote your ads on LinkedIn because your audience is there. But if you go to your audience network, you are basically missing out, because the LinkedIn algorithm always prioritizes the audience network because it is cheaper, and the algorithm is trying to give you the best results, and it can distribute your ads cheaper in the audience network.
Hmm.
And actually, I ran this test last month again. I try to do it in every quarter just to make sure that nothing is going different, because obviously, if they make a significant change, it can change everything. But
Yeah.
it hasn't been the case at all. But again, every quarter I launch this test for 2 weeks to just make sure. And the test was basically running the same campaign. Everything is the same. Every content is the same. Targeting is the same. The only difference, one of them had the audience network on, the other
Hmm.
had the off. It was a traffic campaign, content traffic campaign. In one of them, the CTR was around like 1%, 0.9%. In the other one, it was 0.03%.
Wow.
uh, because yeah, these audience networks, people see your ads, but they basically don't click because they are not in those networks to see your ad. Probably they are just skimming through, they are doing something else, and it basically doesn't bring you anything. It just makes you spend money.
Yeah, I haven't dug into it too much, but I'm curious to know if you have seen anything around it, but how are the ads rendered on those publisher sites? Like, I can't imagine that the ads that we designed for LinkedIn look very good on the publisher sites. I feel like there's got to be a really big mismatch between like the placement and the dimensions.
So that's the other problem, because LinkedIn doesn't show. For example, think of Google Ads. When you go to Google Ads, you can at least see some visualizations. On LinkedIn, it's a black box. You have no idea which websites have been your ads, which type of ads have been being promoted. Nothing. It's a black box.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Do not use the audience network, folks. Tip number 2. What's tip number 3?
uh, Reach objective is the best way to penetrate your audience. So if you want to reach a bigger audience, but don't want to spend that amount of money, the reach objective will give you that. Obviously, if your objective is to get a lot of clicks, it won't be the best case. If your objective is to generate a lot of conversions, it won't be the solution. However, if you truly know your ICP, if your content really resonates with your ICP, if you reach these people, then your ICP will be clicking on your ad anyway, regardless of your objective. So
Mm-hmm.
if you know that you can smash understanding your ICP, if you know that you have a really resonating content, then actually the reach objective will give you the similar numbers with the traffic objective, but you will reach more people.
Interesting. So when you say reach more people, you mean unique impressions
Yes.
by viewer within the audience, essentially. And
Yep.
with reach, you'll get more unique impressions versus total impressions, essentially. Because what I've
Exactly.
found is like the engagement objective can dramatically cut your CPMs and have more direct clicks to the landing page. But what I'm not sure about is the reach component and how effective it is in terms of like driving unique impressions versus just more cheap impressions, essentially.
So in terms of cost per reach and cost per impressions, the reach objective by far brings the lowest numbers. But in terms of the click-through rate, it doesn't bring you the best numbers. Uh, and again, if you feel like though your ads are really resonating, it will work. And now I'm saying this very confidently because I finally have this data to back this up. You might have seen that we have been publishing all of these labs reports about, okay, what is the cost per lead change every year, what is the ACV change, and I know that it would be the perfect content for marketing because those are the questions every marketers are answering. And when I create those reports, I basically create those reports to give an answer to myself. And also, I know that my ICP is myself. So when I started running those ads, uh, first I tried with traffic objective because I always went with traffic objective for the content ads. But then I had that idea. I was like, okay, this is an amazing content for me. I would definitely click with even though the objective wouldn't be traffic. And I changed it to reach objective, and nothing changed. And actually, the reach objective helped me to increase my reach, but also I had almost a similar CTR with traffic objective.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious when you're running these campaigns, kind of diving into this point a little bit further. So if people are listening to this, like, okay, I'm going to definitely lean into reach to penetrate my audience. Are you measuring penetration by audience or anything around that? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do it every month and at the end of every quarter. And if you speak with your LinkedIn rep, they can send you that report. So at the end of the month and at the end of the quarter, my LinkedIn reps always send me two data. Uh, Maybe more than two data. All of my campaigns, how many people I have been targeting in these campaigns, what is my unique reach, and what percentage of this audience I have reached this month and I have reached this quarter so far. So I can see that how many audience do I need to reach more? For example, again, if I know that if I reach only 20% of that audience, I won't need to change the S anytime soon. I won't need to get any creatives anytime soon. But also it gives you a little warning if there's a problem. For example, imagine in January you might have seen that your audience penetration was 25%, and in February, if you are seeing that it only increased to 30%, even though you spent the same money, it means that okay, your frequency went up and something was happening, and now you cannot
Mm.
reach your audience. Uh, I do it both on the audience level, but also on the company level. And again, if you speak with your LinkedIn rep, they give you this data. The total amount of companies that you might be reaching in that campaign with your targeting. And let's say if there was like 5,000 companies, how many of these companies you actually end up reaching, and what amount of money you spend for each company.
Mm, that's another big black box we can jump into. We can go down the rabbit hole there around like ABM on LinkedIn and proper impressions by account. That's a big one for folks listening. Like, make sure you have enough impressions by account, because if you have this massive account list and your budget doesn't reflect it, I always say ideally minimum 100 impressions by account, 1,000 ideally, because you need more touch points, right, with that account if you're actually going to
Yeah,
penetrate.
exactly. And the other thing is the complete opposite of it. You might be penetrating an account so much, and at some point you need to understand, okay, that account will not convert. And it
Yeah.
happened with Cognism. Like we spent like 30K, 35K only for Salesforce. Like for 3 months, we were seeing Salesforce and it was getting like 10K. And the other companies were getting like, I don't know, $100, $200. But somehow the algorithm was allocating all of that budget to Salesforce because
Yep.
apparently people from Salesforce were engaging with this. But it
Mm-hmm.
basically made the algorithm go crazy. And after 3 months, we're like, okay, we spent so much money for Salesforce, they are not going to convert. So we have to exclude them from our campaigns.
100%. On that, you just putting a little bow on tip number 3 around using the reach objective. You mentioned LinkedIn reps can help you with getting that audience penetration report on a monthly, quarterly basis, basically whenever you ask them for, which is amazing. That's a great tip for everyone listening. But for those that don't have LinkedIn reps, could they do the formula themselves to understand the audience penetration?
Technically, they can on the audience level, but not on the company level, because LinkedIn won't show the unique number of companies that the audience reached and the unique number of companies that the campaign had. But if they want to do it on the audience level, they can simply, it would be a bit manual work, but it is doable. Like you just need to export your campaigns. Unfortunately, when you export your campaigns, you cannot export the number of audience to the Excel file, so you need to look at your LinkedIn campaigns and put those numbers, the audience numbers, manually to the CSV file. Then at the end of the month, you basically need to add the total number of reach from each campaign there. However, uh, it is not 100% accurate because this thing actually ignores the fact that people change their jobs. People move. Like your target audience could still be 100K for 3 months, but it doesn't mean that every person in that 100K is the same person. And
Mm,
like there would be 10K people new who recently promoted, or there would be like 10K people less. Like it changes because people
yeah,
move
that's a great
jobs.
point. That's a great point. Yeah, because I was initially thinking you can do just reach divided by your audience size, and then now you understand your exposure. But it's not necessarily the same
Yeah.
people because they're coming in and out of that cohort. Yeah, that's a great point. So LinkedIn is able to understand it's the unique members.
Yep.
Got it. That's a great tip. Tip number 4.
Exclusions. Exclusions give you focus. Uh, by Sylvia Perez, and I think people are underestimating the power of exclusions. And obviously, everyone knows, okay, you need to exclude your competitors, you need to exclude your customers, okay, you need to exclude the students, I don't know, who are not in your ICP, okay. But also, you need to exclude really heavily. Like when you think of it, when you think about that, LinkedIn demographics report gives you amazing data. You can see which job titles you are targeting, you can see which industries you are targeting. And if you are seeing, and I recommend looking at demographics report at least once a week. And as soon as you see different job titles, just cut them off. Go back to campaign and exclude them. For example, in our case, we took it like, okay, we are targeting marketeers, but if you just go with marketers, even though you go with job title, I always see a social media manager, even if I only use, I don't know, demand generation people or only use digital marketing managers. There's always a social media manager. There's always a brand manager, no matter what I do.
Hmm.
So d- LinkedIn will always target different people that you want to target, and you need to see who you are targeting and you need to exclude them. However, this doesn't also mean that you need to exclude heavily. What I mean by that, for example, some of the companies they say, okay, I want to reach company sizes that have at least 500 employees and like up to 10,000 employees. And they're like, okay, let's exclude every company that is lower than 500 employees. I think that's a huge mistake because there's a lot of people who have multiple jobs. There's a lot of people who just have a charity on their profile. They are okay working in IBM, but probably they're a member of charity. They're a member of some
Mm.
organization which have like 10 people. So if you exclude by company size, you are going to miss out all of those people. And also it also applies in industry. Like if you exclude industries like, I don't know, non-profit or like media organizations, you might be excluding all of those people with multiple job titles. Again, if you go on my profile, I'm a member of charity, and if you exclude non-profit organizations, okay, you are going to exclude me as well.
I see, I see. And just to unpack that a little bit for everyone, it's because LinkedIn will serve ads to people based on open role positions and they can mix and match. So if you have two open roles, one is you're a member of a charity, right? So in this case, you have title of member, you now belong of industry charity or nonprofit. And then on the other side, you are the head of growth and you work at a tech company. So LinkedIn essentially will mix and match. So they'll say, okay, you are in nonprofit and tech and you're head of growth and you're a member. So basically these four attributes you now become possible to show up for in terms of a targeting perspective. So you have to be careful where you're saying if you exclude too broadly, you're going to really create, in Google Ads terms, a negative keyword conflict. So in this case, like an audience conflict, where now you're blocking things that you actually want to show up for.
Yeah, and in terms of exclusions, LinkedIn always prioritizes negative exclusions over inclusions. So if you exclude something, it will always have a more priority than inclusions. So you cannot be like, okay, I want to exclude all of the non-profit ones, but I'm also targeting the tech people, so I will end up reaching them. No, it is not the case. Exclusions
Mm.
always take over inclusions.
So just to close on that, you're saying focus more so on your inclusions, and then from an exclusions perspective, leverage titles because you can be more specific so that way you can cut precisely and not run into this issue where you might be excluding too broadly.
Exactly.
Awesome. Love it. Tip number 5.
This one is a bit controversial, but yeah, job functions give you better visibility and better reach than job titles.
No
Uh,
way. What do you mean? I'm just kidding.
and also, this doesn't mean that I always choose job functions. Like currently, maybe like 50%, 60% of my campaigns have job functions and the rest have job titles. So it definitely doesn't mean that one is better than the other. But for some cases, like if you have content that could resonate with more than your ICP, job functions will give you better results. It is cheaper and it gets better engagement. For example, while I was at Cognizant, on the marketing side, job functions didn't really work that much, and the job titles and job functions almost had the similar metrics. But on the sales side, we were also targeting sales in our ICP. The job functions had way better metrics, because when I think about all of those sales job titles, SDR, BDR, MDR, I don't know, ABR, sales manager, head like there's a lot of different sales titles. And we first tried to go with job titles, and we just couldn't match it. Like there's a limit on LinkedIn, and we were hitting that limit all the time. And we always find out there were different job titles. We were seeing different job titles on our pipeline. We were seeing different job titles on LinkedIn. So we realized that, okay, we cannot do that with job titles. So we started testing job functions. And not only the metrics were better, like not only the in-platform metrics were better, but it was cheaper. And we were truly able to penetrate the market, because the audience size was also better. Like maybe, I don't remember the number, but if we were, for example, if we had like 50K in the targeting audience, after we changed it to job function, it was like maybe 7K, 75K. And it truly gave us the true penetration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm curious, have you found any specific combinations to work best? Because I feel like somebody's listening to this right now and they're like, I hear you, but I really want to make sure I get in front of the right people. So have you found some different job function combinations that work well?
So 101 is basically job function plus seniorities, job seniorities. And apart from that, if you know their skill set and interest. So I don't do and skills and interest, but I combine it, and skills or interest, so one or other. And I try to use the basics ones, like interest, okay, enterprise software, enterprise sales software, I don't know, sales groups, outbound. And the good, like the important thing there is, it is okay to not have the perfect ones in your first week, in your second week, in your third week, but you got to check your demographic report all the time. Going back to the third one, maybe fourth advice, because that demographic report will give you all of the irrelevant job titles that you are reaching. And with Cognizant, when we started that, we had no data. Like we had no data about interest, we had no data about skill set, and I didn't want to really over target the audience, because again, I didn't know about the audience. So we did check the demographics report every week, and it took us like 2.5 months. But after 2.5 months, we literally didn't see any irrelevant job title ever again.
Wow.
And after that point, we didn't really optimize those campaigns by demographics report. Like we were looking at demographics report anyways, but there was literally nothing. After two and a
Yeah.
half months, everything was perfect.
You dialed it in 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. So essentially you're casting that net, in Google Ads language, it's like you need to clean your search terms report. In this case, you need to clean your demographics report, right? So you're casting that net and you're checking to see quality. But the advantage is if you can pull off the function combination, then you're going to get lower CPMs. You're going to get a larger
yeah,
audience size. So it's almost like, in a way, it's like media arbitrage where you are gaming the system because you're getting in front of the
exactly,
same person, but you're just doing it in a different way. And now you're getting rewarded with lower costs.
exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just one more tip to add on to this tip. And by the way, if you guys haven't gotten value yet, I don't know if you're listening or not, but this has been awesome. So on that tip, for everyone's listening, they're like, okay, job function, seniority, and then skills or interest. I don't know what skills. I don't know what interest. What I recommend that you do is that you look up some of your best fit customers on LinkedIn and then just go through their LinkedIn profile and see how do they self-identify, like what skills do they have on their profile, right? What schools did they go to? And just basically look for patterns and see if you can notice enough patterns so that now you can start to create these different cohorts of combinations to then be able to test.
Exactly. And actually, one more thing that I should add here. If you are going with job functions, I would also recommend using exclusions for the job opportunities. If you exclude entry level, and again, if you are going to target decision makers, you can target entry level positions and unpaid internship, all of the training positions, and it will give you, at least it is going to make sure that you are not reaching irrelevant people. Because at first you might think that, okay, if I'm targeting managers, I shouldn't be reaching irrelevant job titles. I shouldn't be reaching low entry positions. But also, there's a lot of people who are, I don't know, who who are self-claimed to be CEO of a one-person company, but also who is an SDR in a huge organization, who is a just entry-level SDR. So
Mm-hmm.
if you use seniority level, I don't know, manager, director, and on the sales job function, you might end up reaching an SDR who is the CEO of a one-person company. So, but if you exclude job functions that are like unpaid training or entry level, it will help you to have better focus.
Yeah, that's a good ad. And everyone listening, we are in a very spoiled time, like targeting is never perfect, but I always try to think back to like imagine Claude Hopkins created the coupon, him going out and like trying to get in front of his ICP. So, these systems aren't perfect, but they're pretty damn good, you know what I mean, as far as what we've got today. All right. Tip number 6.
Always start with even rotation when you launch a campaign.
So by even rotation, you mean on the creative settings?
Yeah.
So when you launch your ad campaigns, you have optimized for performance and then you have optimized evenly. You're saying optimize evenly. What's the logic behind it?
So imagine you launch a campaign with 5 creatives, and if you go with optimize, LinkedIn might give 90% of your budget to one ad, and if you don't test all of your ads at the same time, you won't actually understand which ad performed better, which ad performed worse. So I generally go with either 1 week or 2 weeks with even rotation, just to make sure that each ad gets enough budget. And once I see that okay, each ad has similar budget, I can then compare the metrics. Otherwise, again, one of your ads might get like 90% of the budget, and it will basically give you nothing, and
Yeah.
you won't be able to use the forest. So if you go with even rotation, you can understand what is working, you can understand what is not working, and you can then pause the ones that are not working and create new ones similar to the ones that are already working.
Yeah. I can't stress this point enough, For those listening though, this is where it goes back to you need to be a good steward of your account and a good
Yeah.
manager and make sure you're giving these things time and you're reviewing these things because if you're not, at the end of the day, this is predicated on your ability to actually manage your account effectively, meaning half of that is just like spending time doing these things, like looking at these things. So if you're listening to this and you're not actually reviewing performance in your account, at least on a weekly basis, you're probably better off going with that optimized for performance because by the time you go in there and check something, you know what I mean? It could be a deadly situation. So at the end of the day, like everything we're talking about is ways to level you up even more so, but it is predicated on like the consistency of actually getting in your account and doing the work.
Yeah, I cannot stress this enough. Like, you have to be in your account at least a week. You need to be auditing your account.
Yeah. Tip 7.
So, so far I already mentioned that a lot. But yeah, it was also in my list of tips. The demographics report. Always check the demographics report. Like, Google doesn't have that amount of like that kind of report. Facebook doesn't have that kind of report. Uh, when you think about that, you can literally see all of the job titles you are tagging, all of the job functions, all of the industries. Therefore, yeah, I cannot stress the importance of it enough. At least a week, go to the demographics report. And the amazing thing about it, you can do it on the ad level, you can do it on the campaign level, you can do it on the campaign group level. So you can actually understand what is happening across all of your accounts. So you can start with the ad level, and you can see what kind of people saw your ad. Then you can do it on the campaign level, and you can then do it on the campaign group level to make sure that okay, not only you are showing your ads to the right people, not only you are showing your campaign to the right people, but you are showing your whole campaign groups to the right people.
Yeah, 100%. Are you doing anything around demographics reporting through the API?
No, actually no. Like, I sent that data to Supermetrics, So yeah, actually, I kind of do. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I send that data to Supermetrics. So actually, I don't use LinkedIn that much because I don't like the UX. I send every data to GDS. So all
Yeah.
of my reports are on GDS, and I think filtering is better. All of the reports work better on GDS. So I use Supermetrics, and I don't know, it is like $30, $40 per month, and it
Hmm.
really helps you out. It really helps you out.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason why I brought that up for everyone listening is when you're doing demographics reporting through LinkedIn, you're really restricted in terms of
Yeah.
the amount of impressions by dimension, essentially. So if you just use the API, so you can use a tool like Supermetrics, Data Slayer. I mean, there's a bajillion of them, but you can use a tool like that that can pull the data, the demographics data through the API into any tool of your choice for reporting. You can then see the performance by dimension much more granularly. So instead of like dealing with these ridiculous sample minimums in LinkedIn's platform, you can actually see, I think it's as low as like 10 impressions by attribute.
Yeah, actually, you are right. I wish I added that to my tip list. That's a great tip. And yeah, the good thing about APIs, you can actually see how much money you spent for each company, what is the CTR by each company. Like you can actually see on the campaign level, company level. You can actually see it on job title level. LinkedIn shows you only the total impressions you get from the job titles, only the total impressions you get from the industries. But with the API, you can actually see the entire data.
Yep, 100%. Awesome. Tip number 8.
So it is I'm not sure if it is a white known thing or it is not a white known thing, but even though you cannot natively target by mobile app on LinkedIn or by desktop on LinkedIn, there's a chance that you can do that. Like there's a hack, there's a trick to do that. If you are running a single image campaign or video campaign, if you use a mobile vertical image, and that's the thing, like if you search by mobile vertical image LinkedIn on Google, actually there's an article on LinkedIn's website with the dimensions. So
There's
if you
actually an
use
article at adconversion.com/ad specs. I'm just kidding. But there actually is.
yeah, AdConversion has better articles. Please don't go LinkedIn. Don't give them traffic. But yeah, there's like this mobile vertical image size, and if you use that size, even though you don't necessarily target mobile, that ad is only shown on mobile app. So you actually create a campaign that is mobile only. You can create a campaign that is mobile only, uh, and especially when you think of, and I will come this in my next tip, if you have a interesting audience split, like if you see that most of your audience is using mobile app versus desktop, or even if you don't want your audience to convert on your website. Okay, for B2B SaaS websites, we know that your audience won't directly come from mobile and then they convert on your website. But I don't know, if you want to just showcase your product, just showcase your case studies, or just showcase a video, the mobile vertical images will be a better choice because once scrolling, your user will see that, will engage with it. And again, the good thing is that it covers the entire screen, so they cannot miss that. Like they cannot miss it on LinkedIn. Uh, Alternatively, on the other side, there's also ad type that you can only target desktop, which is the spotlight ads. So if you want to target only your desktop audience, you can run a text ad or a spotlight ad, and it will mean that you are only going to be reaching a desktop audience.
How do you judge those spotlight ads? I personally haven't done a ton of spotlight ads. Do you just kind of see it as awareness? Kind of how do you measure that?
Like nobody clicks on that. That's the good thing. You don't pay for that.
Uh,
Like I always use the traffic objective, and I do manual bidding, and I know that nobody will be clicking on that. So since nobody clicks on that, it is
that's so
basically,
smart.
it's
Yeah.
so cheap to run. And if someone clicks on it, it will be really bad. So please, if you are listening to me and if you see my ad, don't click on that.
What
But
is what's like the average cost per click on the spotlight ads on like that you've
for
seen?
45.
45. Oh.
But nobody clicks. Nobody clicks. No, no, no. Like currently, I'm going to give the exact data. Like currently, it is 45 to me.
Yeah, yeah,
And I just checked today. Like even this week, 2 people clicked on that. I was like, who the hell clicks on
yeah.
it? Like, please don't.
Exclude.
But when
Yeah.
you actually look at the total spend and the total impressions and reach you get, it justifies the price.
Mm.
But if more people click on that every day, it definitely a no-go.
That's a great tip for everyone listening. If you want to go desktop only, run spotlight ads with the traffic objective. So now you're bidding on a per click basis. And then if you want to target mobile only, then leverage that vertical image size. All
Yeah.
right. We are on tip number 9.
Yeah, actually, I wish I set the 8 for the ninth and ninth for the 8th. The ninth is always look at the device breakdown when you look at your campaign metrics. Because, like, unfortunately, the UX of LinkedIn is not the best UX, and you don't actually see a lot of features unless someone tells you. And also, your account reps most of the time don't tell anything about that. And when you think of the UX of LinkedIn, okay, there's a huge button for demographics, yes, but the device impression or breakdowns are equally important as demographics, but the UX is awful that you don't actually see those buttons. And if
Yeah.
you go, yeah, like if you go on LinkedIn and it is literally next to the time range, and yeah, it is on the left on the time range. And if you click on that breakdown, you can actually see the breakdown of your campaigns by conversions. Like if you use different type of conversions, you can see different type of conversions. You can see the placement and device breakdown. And I think device breakdown is one of the most important things because it shows you what percentage of your audience sees your ad from the mobile app, from the mobile web, and from desktop. And there's still some people who use mobile web. Unfortunately, I don't know why.
It's
Uh,
it's significant. Yeah. 100%.
yeah, and the good thing is if you see what your audience uses on the device type, then you can optimize your campaigns accordingly. For example, if you are seeing that, let's assume that you have 4 different campaigns. One of them is your product campaign, the other is social proof, the other is content, and the other is retargeting. And if you are seeing that for the product campaign, somehow you are getting more impressions from desktop than mobile app, you can moving forward, you can create your ads in a rectangle shape because rectangle dimensions are more suitable for desktop. And since most of your audience is on desktop, then having a rectangular ad image probably will give you better engagement. But if you are seeing more mobile people, then you can either try the square image, which is optimized for both mobile and desktop, or if you are seeing like I don't know 90% of your audience from mobile, then you can simply go with mobile vertical. But I think it is important to optimize the creatives by the device that your audience is using. Like if all of your audience is using desktop, then it doesn't make any sense that you are running a square image.
Yeah. This is the gold within running LinkedIn ads. It's like you see that single image ad objective and you're like, okay, it's one objective. But in a way, when you think about the breakout of dimensions, it's like 4, 5, you know what I mean? However much
Yeah,
it shakes
and
out to be.
there's a dedicated episode about this in our LinkedIn course 101
Yeah,
with ad
yes,
conversion.
there is. Yeah,
Stay
you
tuned.
got definitely a plug opportunity. Yeah, we've got 3 courses on the way this year: LinkedIn Ads 101, 102, 103. So beginner, intermediate, advanced, and we get way like Jan Berk breaks it down way into the weeds on this. So review your device breakdown, and adding on to this point, we analyzed over 10 million impressions of our internal data with clients, and we found on average about 72 to 93% of impressions were served on mobile devices. So
Wow.
that's mobile web and app, which is insane.
I think I had only one client where I saw more desktop, and they were selling to senior accountants in the US who were working in enterprise companies with more than 5,000 employees. And when you think about it, okay, it makes sense. Those people are boomers, probably they're like over 50 years old, 60 years old, and they're accountants. So it was literally the only account where I saw desktop had better impression than mobile. Apart from that, I have never seen desktop prevailed.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a great reminder of like you need to check your bias and and look at the data, because me personally, I'm always on LinkedIn on my computer, not on on the app on
Yeah,
the go, but most of the time I'm at my desk, and that's when I'm on LinkedIn. So me, with my bias, I'm like, oh, well, everyone's going to see my ad
same.
as
Yeah,
it's written in desktop, which is actually another good nugget here for everyone. When you're writing your ads for LinkedIn, you should always write them with mobile first in mind, not desktop. So when you're previewing the ad feed and the ad image, you should really stress how it renders on mobile more so than the desktop view.
yeah, that's such an amazing tip. And again, the good thing on LinkedIn that you can preview by both mobile and desktop. And whenever you launch your ads, you need to do both.
Yeah. All right. Drum roll, the 10th and final tip.
Yeah, actually, I want to add this to the tent for a reason because I think even though all of them were equally important to me, I think this is a hidden gem, and I cannot stress this enough. How many people don't know how to use it? How many people actually are not even aware of this exists? And like I keep talking with customers and I keep talking with my own friends, other marketers, and when I talk about this, they are so surprised and they have never heard of this feature, like in 99% chance. And that feature is basically one of the most simple features that LinkedIn has: import and export feature. You don't need to create campaigns on LinkedIn. You don't need to edit your campaigns on LinkedIn. You don't need to change your bidding. You don't need to optimize your campaigns on LinkedIn. You can simply export your campaigns. You can simply export your ads, your campaign groups to CSV file. You can make your mesh changes, mesh updates on the CSV file, and then you can simply import that file. And instead of, for example, think of you are updating all of the UTMs. If you are on LinkedIn, you need to click right and open, like, I don't know, 100 campaigns, and you need to do it all together. Or you can just export it to CSV, do it in 10 seconds in CSV, and export it, and it will take 2 minutes.
You know, I am on the camp of not using that feature enough, and that's definitely an opportunity for me to get better.
It's a gem. Like, I can't tell
Yeah,
enough. It's such a hidden gem.
I'm just like thinking the other day when LinkedIn changed to the dynamic campaign parameters. Uh, I went in and I started manually updating each campaign to add the dynamic parameters at the campaign level instead of the ad level. And yeah, I should have used the import export. So it's a great reminder for sure. All right. So we've got 10 tips just to quickly recap. Tip number one was to start off with auto bidding. First 7 days, get your average CPC. Then from there, switch to manual, about 20-25% lower, and keep going until you find the point of diminishing returns between cost and scale. Tip number two was to never turn on the audience network for many reasons, primarily being distribution issues. Right, it's a black box. You don't know where your ads are going to be seen, and then ultimately it's going to negatively impact your click-through rate, which is a huge component of your quality score. Tip number three is to leverage the reach objective if you really want to penetrate your audience. And you had a great little nugget there around using your LinkedIn ads rep to send you that audience penetration report, either on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on your needs. Tip number four was to leverage exclusions because they give you focus, and leveraging the demographics report, checking it at least once per week, and being careful about the inclusion criteria around targeting on LinkedIn so you don't block people that actually should see your stuff. So be more precise in terms of the exclusions that you leverage. Tip number five, you talked about leveraging job functions over title because it's going to allow you to have better economics in terms of cost. And you just got to spend some time getting the quality to be on point. And then tip number six was all around leveraging even rotation versus optimize for performance for your ads. Tip number seven, going back to the demographics report, make sure you are checking it, leveraging the API so you can get more insights. Tip number eight is if you want to optimize for the device type, leverage the mobile vertical image size for mobile, and then you can try those spotlight ads for desktop. Do not click on the ads. Tip number nine was to review the device breakdown so you can see what that looks like for you. And then finally, tip number 10 was to import and export your campaign changes. Jan, thank you so much. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn, please.
All right, we'll
No,
definitely
no Twitter. Definitely no Twitter.
we will definitely add Jan socials and everything down below. And of course, if you guys aren't already an AdConversion student, definitely sign up so you can check out his course when it launches later this year. Jan, thank you so much for being here.
Silvia, thank you so much for having me.